Wall Street closes lower as concerns over high bond yields weighed on investors. The tech-heavy Nasdaq led the decline. Market now awaits cues from the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell's speech later today. Stocks in the Asia-Pacific opened largely higher. The SGX Nifty 2 indicates a positive start for the Indian market. Tata Steel reports a net loss of over 2,500 crore rupees in the third quarter. EBITDA misses estimates by a huge margin, while margin contracts on the back of weakness in the European business. Nifty stocks, Bharti Airtel and Adani Ports will report third quarter numbers today. From the broader market, also watch out for numbers from Ambuja Cements and Deepak Nitrite. Two earthquakes in excess of 7.5 magnitude leave over 3,800 dead in Turkey and Syria. The death toll is expected to move higher as rescue operations remain underway. Countries from across the world send in aid and assistance to help rescue efforts. Good morning in the Mumbai News Center. I'm Sonal Bhutra and you're watching Power Breakfast. Those are the top headlines that we'll discuss in greater detail. But first up, as always, let's take a look at what the global markets and in specific Asian markets are doing currently. Largely higher across the Asian screen. We have Hang Seng, which is high by 0.6%. Taiwanese index absolutely flat, but with some positive bias. So that one is up around 13 odd points. Kospi 2 is up 0.5%. We have Taiwanese index, which is up 0.3%. Actually, it's 0.1% right now. Nikkei 2 is higher by 0.2%. So across the board, despite weaker cues that we got from the US markets, Asian markets are higher, and SGX Nifty is indicating that the start for our own markets, well, that could be in the green. An 83-point uptick is what this index is suggesting. Remember, we closed lower yesterday. So yes, there could be some green on the Indian market screen today, at least. That's what the Asian markets are suggesting right now. But let's talk about the US markets, because Wall Street ended yesterday's session lower. The Dow Jones slipped by 0.1%. The S&P 500 fell by 0.6% as well. Tech heavyweight Nasdaq Composite was the day's underperformer, falling by 1%. CNBC's Kate Rooney gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
Wall Street took a breather today from its strong start to the year as higher bond yields provided an attractive alternative to stocks. The Dow closed down 0.1%. The S&P ended down 0.5%, and the Nasdaq finished down 1%. Another tech company is cutting jobs. Dell will lay off about 5% of its workforce, roughly 6,600 employees, because it anticipates an economic downturn. Its stock dropped 3% today. And Tyson Foods fell more than 4%. It expected higher beef prices would increase demand for its chicken products, but beef prices fell, forcing Tyson to cut its own prices and pushing its earnings well below Wall Street's forecast. That's today's action in the U.S. Back to you in Mumbai.
Okay, all right. Let's stay with the U.S. markets now and listen into some views coming in from Mohammed Al-Aryan, who is the Chief Economic Advisor at Alliance.
We have significant uncertainty on three key issues. One is the way the economy functions. We can talk and defend many different outlooks for the real economy over the course of the year. Two, inflation. I can think of three possible scenarios for inflation. And then finally, policy and the disagreement between the markets and the Fed. So there is an unusual level of uncertainty, and then it feeds on to the structural uncertainty we've been talking about. The energy transition, the rewiring of supply chains, the change in globalization. So I completely agree with Larry. It is a very difficult economy to read, and we have to get our head around the notion that there are many potential outcomes. You know that I would have preferred that they do 50 basis points and then wait and see. They didn't. I suspect we have 2 more 25 basis points ahead of us. And my major concern is the possibility that they end up hiking into a weakening economy. The economy is very strong now, and that's why you wanted to get the hikes out of the way. I worry that we may end up hiking into a weakening economy, and that would be unfortunate. Some people predict a recession with 100% probability. I'm not there, you know that. I've said it over and over again. There is nothing predestined about a recession.
Okay, of course, so Jerome Powell's address later today is something that will be very crucial to watch as far as the global markets are concerned. But of course, that's the global market action. How will these overnight cues impact our own markets? We have our research team joining in to tell you just that. This is our Power Prep segment, and we have Ekta, Vivek and Mangalam with us to take you through all that you need to know going into this trading day today. Hi guys, a very good morning to all of you. Ekta, let me come across to you first. What is the market setup looking like today?
Thanks for that. Well, yes, overnight, the markets were subdued as the global cues weighed in yesterday's trading session. The FIIs continued to net sell, so they net sold around 1,200 crores plus in yesterday's trade. Now, the US markets did close lower overnight. It is the Fed speech or statements from the Fed chair which will be in focus at the Economic Club of Washington. So that is something that the street would focus on. Asia is largely in the green at this point in time, and the SGX is probably indicating maybe a little bit of a positive start. Now, in terms of a couple of important cues to watch out for, the Adani stocks continue to be in focus. Adani ports showed a strong intraday recovery in yesterday's trading session. It closed 9% higher. And the overall news yesterday was that the Adani promoter has reduced pledge. Now, we do have the Adani transmission Q3 numbers, which will be in focus. Adani Ports comes out with numbers today as well. So that will continue to be top of mind in terms of news. Result reactions, Tata Steel, LIC Housing Finance, Hindalco because of Novelis. So all of these stocks will continue to be in focus on account of stock-specific action. So that theme continues. Results today, like I mentioned, Adani Ports, Ambuja Cement, Bharti Airtel commentary with regards to Vodafone and the infusion and the competition henceforth would be something that the street would watch out for. Hero Moto. RBI meet this week, so that's the big cue. It's the first of 2023. Levels to watch: 20-day moving average, 100-day moving average on the upside for the Nifty. Near-term support is yesterday's intraday low which was 17,690, and Friday's intraday low, whether or not that can be supported and maintained at this point.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that, Ekta. That's the market setup, but a lot of stocks that will be in focus as well. Vivek has that list. Vivek?
Well, good morning. Quite a few results that came in post-market hours, quite a few disappointments as well. First on our list, Tata Steel, a surprise loss as far as the bottom line is concerned, a loss of over 2,500 crore rupees, dragged lower mainly by weaker European operations. LIC Housing Finance, another big miss as far as the bottom line is concerned. The net profit coming in close to 480 crore versus the CNBC TV18 poll of close to 728 crore. V-Mart, again, a slight disappointment over here as well. Revenues, although they were up almost 12.5% on a year-on-year basis, EBITDA was down almost 23.5%, profitability down almost 65% on a year-on-year basis. Moving on to Action Construction Equipment, a strong set of results from the company this time around. Revenues up almost 27.5%, EBITDA up 57%, while profitability was up almost 70%, coming in closer to the 46 crore mark this time around. JK Paper, the trend of paper companies reporting a very strong Q3 continues. Revenues were up almost 50% on a year-on-year basis. EBITDA was up 76%, and profitability again coming in closer to the 330 crore mark, which is the 150 crore mark last time around. Muthoot Finance also declared its results, largely in line to a slight beat to the CNBC TV18 poll. Profitability coming in over 900 crore versus our poll of close to 867 crore. Nuvoco Mistas, again, a bottom line miss as far as this company is concerned. And the insurance data, and so keep an eye out for the insurance stocks as well. ICICI Lombard, New India Assurance, and Star Health, all of them showing a Jan premium that was up on a year-on-year basis.
Okay, all right, Vivek, thank you so much for that. Finally, let's talk about the F&O space. Mangalam is joining with all the updates there. Mangalam?
Well, yesterday was a weakish day as compared to Friday, and as a result of which all the short covering that took place on Friday got negated, and yesterday the shorts returned. In fact, in cash markets, the FIIs sold about 1,200 crores, the DIIs bought almost all of that, but in index futures, the FII shorts returned 2,200 crore worth selling out there. In fact, they unwound around 1,400 longs, and they added 22,000 shorts as well, as a result of which the FII long exposure is now down to just 15%, the lowest that we've seen in a very long time. The shorts are at 85%. Not just that, they're also selling calls. So 1.3 lakh short calls added by the FIIs as against just 25,000 puts. However, remember, the FIIs haven't unwound all the short puts that they've written in the previous trading session, so supports are still intact. However, on the way up, there is resistance, which is denoted by the fact that the FIIs have sold 5 calls per put sold. What are those calls that have been sold? 17,800 call, a premium of 85 rupees, telling you 17,885 would be the first resistance to watch out for. 17,900 call as well, with a premium of 50 rupees, telling you that 17,890 to around 17,950 is an important resistance band. That's where a couple of daily moving averages lie as well. Though we are seeing put writing at 17,800, telling you that yesterday's low of 17,700 is likely to hold out in terms of a support. The SGX Nifty is indicating a positive start. However, it's also indicating a start straight in the resistance zone. So let's see whether that's getting sold into or not. However, remember, yesterday the put writers did not get follow through. Will today the call writers get follow through or not is the question we need to answer.
Okay, all right. So that's the market setup and the F&O setup as well, guys. Thank you so much for joining us and prepping us up for this trading day ahead. So let's slip into a short break now. Tata Steel reported its third quarter earnings post-market hours yesterday. We'll get you the analysis when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back. It's time for some important earnings now. Tata Steel reported what was a weak set of third quarter earnings. Nigel is joining us with the earnings fine print. Nigel, what happened here?
Well, a disappointing set of numbers, Sonal. We were sensing that Europe will be weak, but it's weaker than expected. So if you just look at the consolidated EBITDA number, well, it missed our estimates. We were working with a number of close to around 5,000 crores. It's coming closer to around 4,000 crores, and obviously margins as well did miss. We put out two poll numbers. One is for the India business and the other one was for the European business. And both those two miss expectations because Europe was worse than expected, while for the India business as well did miss our estimates by close to around 1,500 rupees odd. Keep in mind that it's improved by 1,600 rupees on a sequential basis. That's quarter three if you compare it with quarter two. But the street was bracing for a better number out there. So that as well goes down as a miss. The big problem out here was that realizations were low. And for Europe, those contracts, they got renegotiated at a lower price. So that's why Europe did deliver a weak performance. While for the India business, the coking coal cost cooled off. So that's why, in fact, you did see some bit of a relief. And that's why it went up by around 1,500 rupees. Southeast Asia don't have any big expectations out there. It was as disappointing as expected. The problem now is that debt reduction strategy, we'll have to find out what's going on there. Because there's no debt reduction is what we have seen. So expect the stock to open up in the red. But later today, I'll be chatting up with the management. So hopefully we get a couple of takeaways on what's the way ahead. But stock opens up in the red.
Okay, so stock opens up in the red. As Nigel said, we'll be joined by the Tata Steel MD and CEO TV Narendran on the third quarter results at noon today. So stay tuned for that. Okay, with that, let's move on now. CBIC Chairman Vivek Johri, speaking to CNBC TV 18's Timsi Jaipuria, said major elements of dispute resolution scheme for customs are already available. Addressing the issue of GST on online gaming, he says they are liable to pay GST on the full value at 28%. Listen into what he had to say.
Dispute resolution scheme, the major elements of it, for example, the availability of the tribunal, the availability of the settlement commission to settle disputes as an alternative mechanism in customs is already active and working. So unlike GST, where there could be a concern that the tribunals are not in place, in customs that is not the case. So we felt that the current mechanism is quite adequate to take care of dispute resolution in customs. And that is perhaps why it did not find its way in the budget. I think there are three ways in which we are going to address this. One is a further reduction in the number of rates, or what we call rate dispersion. And I think there is scope for that if we were to look at our own past history where we had fewer rates in customs. So that is one way in which we can achieve further simplification. The other important leg of this journey is the constant review of exemptions. The third thing which goes towards simplification of the rate structure, and that is where a sectoral dimension comes in, is inversion in duties. So as far as possible, we've been trying to rectify inversions from time to time. CBIC's position has been that because online games in a sense characterize gambling or betting, they are liable to payment of GST on the full value, which is the gross collections, at the rate of 28%. So that is the stand we've taken in ongoing cases. But how the GOM resolves the issue, we'll wait and watch.
Okay, that's the word coming in from the CBIC chairman. But for now, we'll sip into a break. Up next, we'll get you all the cues from the commodities market. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back. Well, we've spoken about the global markets, Indian equity markets, and a lot more, but it's time to talk commodities now. Manisha Gupta is joining us with all the update from the commodity space. Hey, Manisha, good morning.
Morning, Sonal. Thank you so much for that. I'll start with crude oil prices because we have seen some recovery come in there. This is after the IEA statements, also to CNBC TV18, saying that they are anticipating strong Chinese demand going forward and that they also see tighter crude markets in the second half of this year, and that clearly led to some buying coming back into these markets there. Also, the Ceyhan terminal in Turkey has suspended operations post the earthquake, so some supply concerns as well coming out from that political area is what is also adding premium to prices. But the profit taking in the metal space has just about continued. You have the gold prices trading at a 1-month lows. Aluminum has come off 7-month highs, and this is after China 2022 output has hit a record high when it comes to aluminum production. Copper as well is trading at a 4-week lows because of the strength in US dollar one, and second because the Chinese inventories in last 40 days have gained up by 61%. So the markets are looking at higher production, higher inventories, and for the very near term, that seems to be weighing on metals. They had run up quite strongly, so some bit of a profit taking coming in on the charts.
Okay, all right. That's the update from the commodities market. Thank you, Manisha, for joining us with that. Moving on to some somber news, offers of support have been pouring in after a 7.8 magnitude earthquake hit central Turkey and northwest Syria. Remember, this was before sunrise yesterday. More than 3,500 people have been killed in the quake, and there's a fear that this number could rise sharply. The Turkish president said that 45 countries have offered to help in search and rescue operations, including the US, EU, Qatar, India, Russia, and even Ukraine. Turkey has declared a state of emergency as rescue operations continue. NBC's Keir Simmons has more.
Whole buildings collapsing from the earthquake's power. Unable to stand against this quake, almost 8 on the Richter scale. The morning light revealing devastation and wreckage. A toddler in Syria, bloody but conscious, pulled from the rubble, and other survivors taken from collapsed buildings, lucky to be alive. 3 huge tremors snapping streetlights and sending car alarms wailing. The moments recorded on security camera footage. This is one of the region's worst quakes in decades, striking while people slept just after 4 a.m. The quake hitting a huge area of southern Turkey and northern Syria, an area already war-torn with hundreds of refugees. The tremors felt as far as Beirut, Jerusalem and Gaza. In northern Syria, they are searching for survivors in opposition-held territory. Hospitals there already overwhelmed with the injured.
We need help. We need the international community to do something to help us, to support us.
Turkey's President Erdogan said rescue workers will be joined by troops to search for survivors, but they have a vast area to cover. Those searching calling for silence as they try and listen for trapped survivors. This rescuer asking someone trapped, "What colour are you wearing? Are you wearing pink?" A frantic rush to find those caught in the rubble. The White House offering to provide any and all assistance to Turkey, although the statement left out any reference to the US working directly with Syria.
Okay, those are some terrifying visuals praying for the relief and improvement in whatever is happening in Turkey and Syria. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Power Breakfast. Do stay tuned. Bazaar Morning Call comes up next.